let's get to good old Chris Hedges' recent article and give my thoughts. The Democratic Party and its liberal allies decry the consolidation of absolute power by the Trump White House, repeated constitutional violations, flagrant corruption, the deformation of federal agencies, using them as attack dogs for Trump's opponents and dissidents. Liberals, the Democratic Party warn that time is running out, but at the same time, they steadfastly refuse to call for mass mobilizations that can disrupt the machinery of commerce and the state. It treats the handful of Democratic Party politicians who address social inequality and abuses by the billionaire class, including Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani, as lepers. It blithely ignores the concerns and demands of ordinary Democratic Party voters, reducing them to disposable props at rallies, town halls, and conventions. The Democratic Party and the liberal class are terrified of mass movements, fearing correctly that they too will be swept aside, which they should be. They delude themselves that they can save us from despotism as they cling to a dead political formula, mounting vapid corporate indentured candidates such as Kamala Harris, or the Democratic Party candidate and former naval officer running for governor in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill. They cling to the vain hope that being against Trump fills the void left by their lack of vision and abject subservience to the billionaire class. And as we've seen time and again, the liberal class actually just funnels support to the Democrats, which their mere existence leads us down a path towards fascism. They handed a massive dictator's toolkit to Trump. The liberal class in a capitalist democracy is designed to function as a safety valve. It makes possible incremental reform. Yeah, so he's saying it makes possible incremental reform so that nothing large scale ever changes. At the same time, he says, it does not challenge or question the foundations of power. The quid pro quo sees the liberal class serve as an attack dog to discredit radical social movements. The liberal class, for this reason, is a useful tool of fascism. It gives the system legitimacy. It keeps alive the belief that reform is possible, even though it never comes. The differences between the two ruling parties on substantive issues, such as war, tax cuts, trade deals, and austerity, became indistinguishable. He's talking about after the 1960s, after the protest movements of the 1960s, these two parties became fully indistinguishable. Politics was reduced to burlesque popularity contests between manufactured personalities and acrimonious battles over culture wars. Workers lost protections, wages stagnated, debt peonage soared, constitutional rights were revoked by judicial fiat. The Pentagon consumed half of all discretionary spending. It's now well over half, by the way. The liberal class, rather than stand up against the onslaught, retreated into boutique activism of political correctness. But let's not forget, they also put signs in the yard that say, like, not my president, or black don't crack, or no, not that one. Black Lives Matter, or no, hate has no home here. By the way, if you want to know how meaningless a sign that seems like it's lovely, and most of the people that put it up may be lovely people. Like if they're in your neighborhood and you chat with them, they might be lovely people. But a sign like hate has no home here, you want to know how meaningless it is that the hardcore Zionists that live in our neighborhood that, we chatted with on the sidewalk, I chatted with on the sidewalk, etc. When the genocide began on October 7th, that's when they first put their hate has no home here out in their yard. What did it mean to them? It meant do not be anti-genocide, do not be anti-Israel, because that counts as hate. You can see that the sign that says hate has no home here can be used to actually support a fucking genocide. That's how meaningless that sign is. He says Clinton's welfare reform bill, which was signed in 1996, threw 6 million people, many of them single mothers, off the welfare rolls within 4 years. It dumped them onto the streets without childcare, rent subsidies, and Medicaid coverage. Families were plunged into crisis, struggling to survive on multiple jobs that often paid $6 or $7 an hour, or less than $15,000 a year. But they were the lucky ones. In some states, half of those dropped from the welfare rolls could not find work at all. Clinton also slashed Medicare by $150 billion over a 5-year period and cut $14 billion out of Medicaid funding. The overcrowded prison system handled the influx of the poor, as well as the abandoned mentally ill. The Democratic Party throws scraps to the serfs. It congratulates itself for allowing unemployed people the right to keep their unemployed children on for-profit healthcare policies. It passes a jobs bill that gives tax credits to corporations as a response to an unemployment rate that, if it actually included everyone who was jobless or part-time when they wanted to be full-time, etc., it would be 20% of America if you actually judged the unemployment rate. The Democratic Party forces taxpayers, 1 in 8 of whom depend on food stamps to eat, to fork over trillions to pay for the crimes of Wall Street and endless war, including the genocide in Gaza. The defenestration of the liberal class reduced it to courtiers mouthing empty platitudes. The safety valve shut down. The assault on the working class and working poor accelerated. So too did very legitimate rage. That rage gave us Donald Trump. The Democratic tools for change, running for office, campaigning, voting, lobbying, petitioning, no longer work, if they ever worked. Corporate forces and oligarchs have seized control of our political, educational, media, and economic systems. They cannot be removed from within. The Democratic Party is a hollow appendage. Our captured institutions, subservient to the rich and powerful, are capitulating to Trump's authoritarianism. All we have left is sustained, nonviolent, disruptive civil disobedience, mass movements, radical politics, rebellion, a vision that counters the poison of unfettered capitalism. This alone, and of course, unfettered means it goes faster, but it's really the poison of capitalism in general. Because capitalism will inevitably, the gravity of capitalism will be to become unfettered cap. That's where it always goes. Because the capitalists, the richest people in the capitalist system, will always cut the chains off. And they will have the levers of power because they will have the money, because they are the capitalists. You see? It's a fun little loop. Anyway, last sentence, he says, this alone can thwart Trump's police state and rid us of the feckless liberal class that sustains it.